Welcome back. You know, carbs are an important part of a healthy diet, especially those that you get from fruits, grains, nuts. Did you know even from milk products that there can be some necessary complex carbs? And today we're going to talk about that. And as you saw in my kitchen today, you really can have carbs. We're going to talk about those.
Yeah, but they've got to be the right types.
You know, that's right.
Let's start this off. There's been so much controversy over the last few years about carbs. Are they good? Are they bad? And let's see if we can't clear that up a little bit.
Well, and what really is a carbohydrate, Richard?
Well, that's a good place to start. A carbohydrate is, as the name implies, it's carbon with hydration on it. In other words, a long chain of carbon, and it's been hydrated with water, and that's a carbohydrate. That's what makes up these starches. Now, we have different types of carbohydrates, and this is where the controversy comes in. A simple carbohydrate is a unit of one or two of these sugar units. The old term was simple carbohydrate. The new term they want us to use is mono or disaccharide. Either way you want to do it, the idea is it's a simple sugar. Very uncomplicated, one or two units.
Now, would most of these have been a complex previously and then it was alterated somehow to become a simple carb, or no, it just is naturally occurring?
Or they may are naturally occurring.
So
For
it could
example,
be either way.
We can have fructose. That's naturally occurring in fruits. That's a simple carbohydrate. Sucrose, table sugar, these are simple. Lactose in milk is a simple sugar. Glucose, that runs through our bloodstream. Glucose is also found in fruits, naturally occurring. Galactose and mannose are found in beans and grains. These are simple carbohydrates. Now, we refer to them as intrinsic when they're naturally occurring in the foods, and extrinsic when they're added, like we would put sugar on top of the strawberries. That would have both intrinsic and extrinsic sugars in them. Okay? Now, that's the one type. That's the type that gets us into trouble more often than not. The other type is what we call complex carbohydrates. The new term for that is polysaccharide. Now, these are long chains of sugar units, and they can be as a chain that you'd pull a car with or branched like a tree. And the benefit of that is it takes time to digest those. They have to be broken into units, and they're released slowly into our bloodstream. Kind of nature's time-release food source. Okay. Now, this is found in whole grains, unprocessed grains. It's complete with fibers and these starches. That's where you find it, and also you'll find it in vegetables. These whole complex carbohydrates. Now, let's talk a little bit about why those are beneficial to us. We'll find these in such as brown rice and whole grain breads, whole fruits, vegetables. They digest slowly. It's really very simple if you stop and think about it. We have a little graphic, if we could put up. This graphic represents a wheat kernel. Now, the secret to the benefit of the grain is right here. If you look at the bran, that's the shell. That's a cellulose fibrous shell. That's fiber that we all need in our diet. The endosperm is the white. That's the starchy component. That's the part that is remaining when a grain has been refined.
So they actually peel off that outer layer, the germ and the bran, and just take the endosperm and make that into flour.
Now, the little jewel there, the germ, contains your vitamin E and the minerals and so many of the nutrients that are necessary to actually digest the calories of that endosperm. Whole grain has it all. Whole wheat has the germ removed. So, and then refined pastry flours and white flours is just the endosperm. So what we've done is we've taken a complex carbohydrate in its natural form, refining it into a simple sugar. You see? And those simple sugars will raise that blood sugar rapidly, cause too much insulin to be released, drives that into our fat stores, and gives us trouble.
But if we were to eat that whole piece, it would raise it slowly.
Yes, slow. And as we saw in the news, it's the type of carbohydrates that get us into trouble. People who are battling their weight eat the refined. People who are thin at ideal weight, they eat more of the complex carbohydrates. So that's the whole thing in a nutshell. Whole grains are better than refined grains. The bran, the germ, the endosperm, nature's complete package provides us with the nutrients necessary to digest them, a slow release format, and it gives us that low blood sugar that we need to maintain, gives us the fiber and all those extra vitamins and minerals to process these foods properly.
Well, who should not eat carbs?
Well, that's a good point.
Who should, who shouldn't? Because, you know, we all think in the last few years we've really been herded towards this direction of all carbs are bad.
All
they're
carbs
unhealthy.
are bad, they're evil.
Don't eat them.
And that's just not necessarily true.
Okay.
Because with some of these carbs, like our vegetables and our fruits, come such good nutrients that we need. All these antioxidants and vitamins are so important. But some people, in particularly the grain source of carbohydrates, have trouble with them. People with uncontrolled diabetes should limit these. Even the complex carbohydrates need to be careful with it. What if you have celiac disease? This is an immune reaction to the gluten of grain. You can't have it at all. You still need to avoid it. How about those with food allergies? If you're allergic to wheat, it'd just be silly to eat that wheat. Can't do it. How about the yeast syndrome? You're overwhelmed with yeast and candida. You need to avoid these things.
But if you keep your yeast under control, then
you
you
keep it under
absolutely
control,
can have these.
and you're not going to get into the yeast trouble if you're getting the whole grain, because that fiber is a natural yeast inhibitor.
Oh, now that's a tidbit I don't think many people know.
That's a natural yeast inhibitor. Science, I tell you folks, this concept, the notions, the scientific evidence behind the whole grain versus refined grains is one of the most studied nutritional subjects we have. Virtually thousands of articles have been written in the scientific journals about this. We know that fruits and vegetables, those who eat a lot of them, have a reduced risk of heart disease. We know that whole grains reduce the risk of diabetes, heart disease, stroke, and even cancers. We know it is of benefit, so we have to make sense of this. What we need to avoid is sodas, cookies, candies, cake, the corn syrup, added fructose. These simple sugars are what's getting us into trouble. And all the whites, the white sugar,
white flour.
That's right.
White potatoes.
Now, what if you got a little sweet tooth going?
Well, because we all do.
From time to time we want a little sweet. That's when you go to the honey. It doesn't take much honey to satisfy. How about a little molasses, as opposed to all that sugar and sweet candies?
And a little maple syrup, but the real type.
The real type of maple syrup. Or have a piece of fruit. That will satisfy the need for a little sugar treat, because we get that from time to time.
We do.
But we want to avoid those simple added sugars, get it mostly from nature, get the complex carbohydrates to help keep your weight down, keep the diabetes under control, and have a long, healthy life. That's the essence of it.
That's
great.
And
your recipe was a great way to put it to work. Folks, when we return, we'll be taking your calls.